Whether you believe they have an edge or not, members of Congress are making lots of trades in 2024. Here to talk about three stocks members of Congress are trading most right now are MarketBeat analysts Chris Markoch and Thomas Hughes. Guys, let's start off the conversation by talking about why people look at what members of Congress are trading.
Because you have to assume that they have some insider knowledge. I mean, they might not know about the inside details of a specific company, but they certainly know about political movements that could impact businesses. And within that sphere, they may actually become privy to some knowledges that the average investor will not have.
Right. And the market's always forward moving in terms of the economy, and Congress knows what legislation is not only being proposed today, but maybe being proposed in a few months. And of course, getting in on those stocks before that legislation hits is would be advantageous. I agree with Thomas. It's more of a suspicion than it necessarily is reality, but you can't deny it.
Coincidentally, the suspicion, whatever, members of Congress tend to outperform the average
Yes.
investor. So in the world where you want to follow the money and follow the leader, congressmen, congresspeople, members of Congress are certainly a leader for investors to follow.
Yeah. There are no coincidences.
Now, there's a lot of tools on MarketBeat's website that investors can use to look at what trades Congress are making, right, Chris?
If you go on the MarketBeat website under market data, and this is a free tool for any investor, there's a link that says members of Congress. And what's really nice about the link is that you can sort it by the actual members of Congress. It gives you that option. So you can actually look to see what a specific member of Congress, either your congressional leader or senator or someone like Nancy Pelosi, is doing, and you can just sort by that. You can also see what the most recent trades have been. So what stocks have been bought most recently, and also what are the most bought stocks overall. And you can sort that by a period of time. I think it starts with like 90 days and it goes maybe as far out as like 180 days. So there are tools there that are available for investors who are interested in that kind of information.
Want to keep your finger on the pulse of the market? Text the word YouTube to 68285. That's 68285, and get free breaking news alerts from MarketBeat for the stocks that matter most to you. Don't miss out on crucial updates. Stay informed and stay ahead.
Let's get to some of the three hot stocks that Congress members are buying right now. Thomas, your first one, really no surprise.
Really, it's not a surprise. It is the hottest stock in the market today, NVIDIA. But in regards to Congress, 5 members have made 7 purchases in the last 90 days. That includes Nancy Pelosi. We have members of both sides of the aisle, so it's bipartisan buying. In addition to the congressional buying, there's also a tremendous amount of market support. So this is more than just a congressional play. NVIDIA is the most followed stock, a most upgraded stock. It's got top rated stock on MarketBeat website. So there are many factors going into the NVIDIA trade.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting to me about NVIDIA being one of the most traded stocks by Congress, especially it's being heavily bought, is the idea that you're starting to see the US Congress now actively look at AI. They understand that this is not something that's a bubble, it's not something that's going away. And now they're looking to find out how Congress should or might be able to regulate it. That's why I think it's really interesting that now that's coinciding with activity in NVIDIA.
Well, right. And speaking to our conspiracy theory before, coincidentally,
Yeah,
NVIDIA is now up to potentially sell its chips to Saudi Arabia. And who would have that knowledge first but the members of Congress?
correct.
That's a very interesting point. Anything about NVIDIA being down, the volatility the stock has seen in the last month or so? Are members of Congress still all in on this stock despite the recent volatility?
Yeah, I haven't seen any selling, and there have been some recent purchases. So, like the most recent purchases were made after the stock dipped. I think that the members of Congress are, and generally speaking, are buying NVIDIA in alignment with the uptrend.
Thomas, let's move on to that second hot stock members of Congress are buying right now.
Yeah, that's Broadcom. It's another chip stock. In 2024, its growth is accelerating in high double digits. I think last quarter it was close to 50% growth. That's supposed to, or is expected to continue to be strong. It's being driven by a rebound in its end markets, but also there's an upcoming Apple upgrade cycle. Apple's getting ready
Yeah.
to release their latest phones. That's supposed to drive a multi-year upgrade cycle in that business. Apple's a huge customer of Broadcom. And then again, members of Congress are buying it. We've got four members on both sides of the aisle, including Nancy Pelosi. We have representatives and senators. Four members made five purchases.
Now, Broadcom also has something else in common with NVIDIA, and that's a recent stock split. What does that mean, Chris?
Well, as we've talked about on this channel numerous times, a stock split doesn't really do anything to change the fundamental valuation of a stock, but it's interesting that you're seeing congressional buying of both NVIDIA and Broadcom after the split, because that does suggest that there's going to be momentum in both of those stocks going forward.
Both of these stocks are in the chip or the AI industry.
Mhm.
Are there more regulations happening at that federal level that Congress might just know more information about than the rest of us?
Yeah, there's no major legislation pending, but
Right.
you know that they're talking about it, so they certainly know which way the wind is blowing.
Yep.
Let's move on to your third pick, Thomas. This one's maybe a little bit lesser known and not quite in the same category as NVIDIA or Broadcom.
Yeah, this is an insurance stock. This is Chubb. It's one of the world's largest insurers. It's well regarded as a high quality blue chip growth stock and dividend grower. It's growing. It's growing its margin. It's paying its dividend. It provides some value regarding Congress. It was purchased to a smaller degree than the other two, but still enough to be the third most purchased stock over the last 90 days. Um, Miss Pelosi did not buy this one, but again, we have bipartisan representation. Um, and the stock is in an uptrend. It's got a very good support from the analysts as well, with an expectation for earnings growth to continue in 2025.
What I found particularly interesting about Chubb being on the list is the fact that there's been a lot of talk about inflation and where inflation is happening, and a lot of people are ignoring the fact that insurance cost is one of the highest examples of inflation that a lot of people are experiencing, not only in their home and car and other things, but this is also when you talk about Chubb, you're talking about this is a lot of the commercial insurance that's being impacted. And so I just think it's interesting that at a time when kind of nobody wants to talk about it, Congress is investing in a company, in an insurance company.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Chris. And I'm wondering if for general investors, should they be following this trend and going and looking at Chubb?
Yeah, I see Chubb as
Yeah,
a high quality stock
I
for
agree.
a dividend portfolio for sure. It's definitely
Absolutely.
could be a core holding.
And one thing I've noticed with Chubb is that in the last 2 quarters, year over year, revenue and earnings have are both well above the prior year. And I think that's reflected in the stock price, but maybe not fully reflected in the stock price, especially if investors and members of Congress are expecting that that type of revenue growth is going to continue.
Well, some great information on the three stocks that Congress is buying most right now. Again, you can look up any of this information and see what your representatives and senators are trading right now, all on marketbeat.com. We'll have that link for you here in the description as well. Thanks for joining us here on our channel. And as always, happy investing.